Hey, so um, Prof Prince, yeah, and in this section, I want to briefly introduce to you the program that you're about to get into, and I want to do this in less than 10 minutes, so please time me out. And because I want to watch this video over and over and over again, let's start by talking about what DevOps is. So first, let's spell the word DevOps. DEVOPS. So now we divide DevOps into two, right? Dev and Ops. What does it mean? Because DevOps is a combination of two words, Dev and Ops. That's the first thing to understand. Secondly, Dev is equals to development and ops is equals to operations. So then, if you put dev plus ops together, it gives you DevOps. Okay. So I'm showing you about development, or dev is just equals to development. Ops is operations. So now, let me contextualize this in a way that you can understand. If you go to a very big restaurant, you can easily see DevOps in action, right? You see those in the kitchen, okay? They're developing, they are creating the meals according to customer specification. Do we agree? Let's say you walk into a restaurant and say, hey, you know what? I want um, white beans and fried rice. Okay. That's a specification. The cook or the chef needs to create that. Once the chef is done, the server needs to serve the food. So we have what? So that server or whoever is serving the food is the operations. So the operations interfaces with the customers, while the developers work in the back end. Okay? So DevOps is a new methodology towards software development. It's a culture, and that culture is aimed at one thing, collaboration between developers and operators or operations. So, what are developers? Developers are those who are, creating the application, transforming these wonderful ideas that a business has or that a client has into the actual application. Just like, if you walk into a restaurant and you say, hey, you know what? I want amala with fish and assorted. That's just an idea. Or, yeah, maybe they have a menu. But let's say you want something totally new. The chef says, yeah, of course, we can do that, right? Goes into the kitchen, okay, and what? Uses a list of tools, follows, an outline process or a list of processes to arrive at that end goal. It is development. So development is actually where the application is built and ready to hit the market. But it does not just go to the market straight. It needs to go through a couple of stages. Right. So in this case, we have to, so from development, the application needs to be tested, just like, in a restaurant scenario, right? When the cook prepares the food, no cook, no chef, no matter how confident they are, or no matter how long they've been in the industry, serves the customer food without testing it. You want to make sure that, the salt is just the right quantity. The Maggi is just the right quantity. The onion, the pepper, everything is blended. Okay. Why is that? Because customer satisfaction is key. Okay. You want your customers to be satisfied. That's why you do testing. The same thing with application, the same thing with softwares. As you start building softwares, as developers build, right? We need to test. When we test, we want to store. That's why in most of our homes we have freezers. But now in software development, where do we store our application before we deploy them? That's what you're going to learn in this program, okay? Application storage. When we store application, we have to deploy. When we deploy, we need to monitor because monitoring helps us to stay ahead. With monitoring, we are able to, we are able to predict what is going to go wrong and we can address those. Very, very important, right? So DevOps is software development with focus on collaboration between developers and operations. Want them to work together. Well, I'm going to ask yourself, so who then is a DevOps engineer? Why is it important? They're going to be developing code? No. You just said DevOps is developers plus operations. So a DevOps engineer is one who brings in, the skills of automation. So you actually want to automate this entire process, right? So at the same time, as a DevOps engineer is collaborating with developers, testers, security, QA, in fact, everybody involved in the process. What he or she brings on the table is automation. We want to automate this entire process. So think of it like hiring a DevOps engineer in that kitchen, and the chef is still grinding pepper, grinding onion, grinding garlic. The DevOps says, no, we can use a blender. A blender is going to save us time. And then he trains the chef on how to use a blender. And bam. Now a meal that used to take maybe 1 hour to prepare now takes 15 minutes. That's a lot of improvement because now it means that that chef, okay, has become what? Has become 75% more effective or more efficient. That means that now we serve our meals shorter. We take a very short time to serve the meals as compared to when we do not have tools. So DevOps comes in with a couple of tools. I'll talk about DevOps tools. And so this is like your syllabus, like what you are going to be studying. What makes you a good and a solid DevOps engineer? You need to understand your tools. Just like in the kitchen, you have tools, right? You have a knife, you have blender, you have all kinds of tools in the kitchen. If you keep an accountant in the kitchen, that's not his place. So he may not know how to use all the tools in the kitchen, especially like in a very busy, restaurant setting, right? Because there are tools that you need to know how to use them. Otherwise, you will not be effective. So DevOps has its tools. So when you think about DevOps, think of it like this. Hey, okay, I'm learning how to automate software development, building, testing, storage, deployment, and monitoring. So you're going to be learning what are the tools involved in building applications and how do you use them? What tools do we use to test the applications? What tools do we use to store the application? How do we deploy the application, and how do we monitor the application? This is DevOps for you, okay? So it's all focused on software, but it's a new methodology, a new philosophy. The philosophy here is collaboration, right? So DevOps is going to bridge the gap. So we want the developer to communicate on a daily basis with the testers. So they used to use platforms like Microsoft Teams or even Slack, but now we even have WhatsApp, right? So you can put everybody together in a WhatsApp group and they go to communicate, okay, and update each other on what is happening. So this is key that you learn. That's why anybody can break into it because you are not a developer, right? So you have developers who've gone to school for 4 years to study software engineering or maybe from programming and all of that. But what? You are their boss because what? You are taking their whatever they are building and transforming it and delivering it to the end users. And it's not just so. When you deliver, you are setting up monitoring. So what are you going to learn in this program? How to build application using DevOps tools, how to test the application using DevOps tools, how to store the application, deploy, secure, and monitor. All of these five major aspects, you are going to need to automate the entire life cycle of the software development life cycle. So the entire process is automated. There is little or no manual intervention. This is the focus of your training. Is automate, automate, automate. Everything we are automating. So this is an introduction into DevOps. Let's now talk about cloud computing. And I'll do this in the next series. Thank you. Stay tuned. We're just getting started.